system strategist. On this channel, we talk about all things project management tools, and business system strategy. So, today's video, we are going to talk about creating a space in ClickUp. In the previous video, if you watched that first, I shared that there are different layers to ClickUp, and that impacts how you structure your information in this tool. The space is a very important component of that because it's the second highest level of the hierarchy, and how you frame that space impacts how you structure the layers underneath. You can look at a space as a department potentially if you would like. You can create a space for a specific project. It's all up to you. However, I do want to make sure you're aware that when you're working on the free version, like I am for this video for demo purposes, you are only allowed 5 spaces. And it's not one of those things where if you create 5 and then you decide you don't want one anymore, you delete it and then think that you can make another one. You could do that. That's not how it works. Once you've maxed out at your 5, you can't create any more spaces until you upgrade your subscription tier. Not the most ideal, but that's just how it goes with ClickUp. So by creating this video, hopefully it helps start spinning, the wheels, and you can think strategically about how you want to utilize those 5. So in creating a space, you can create a space by the very obvious create a space button, or you can click this plus sign here, which will also give you the ability to create a space. I'm going to click this button, and we are going to walk through the process of creating a space, but I'm not actually going to create a space because I want to use my spaces wisely. I have another space here, Fall Candle Line 2025, that we're going to use for the rest of the demo, but you'll see how you can create one here. So let's call this, actually, let's walk through as if I'm doing this again. Fall Candle Line 2025. Let's do 2026 since it already exists. And then you can do a description if you'd like. I'm going to put this as a test. You can make the space private. I'm the only person in this space, so there's no need to do that. However, if you have a team and say this space is going to hold something sensitive, you may not want the rest of your team to see it. You can hit make private, and you can dictate who gets access to the space. If you create the space and it's public right now, and then you realize, oops, I need to make this private, you can change the access later. Don't feel tied to determining the privacy of this space yet. You can always come back to it later. You can also use templates for a space. I personally don't do that because I want to create my spaces custom to me. So I typically don't use any templates. So once you have a name, if you wanted to add a description and decide on its privacy, you hit continue. Similar to the templates, I typically don't click on any of these, not even the project management, because I want to make the space as customizable to me and my needs. You may not need any of these pre-configured spaces. Default views. When you create a space, you automatically are going to have a list view. It's mandatory, it's required, you can't not have it. Once you have that, you have other views like board, calendar, map, Gantt, etc. There's a bunch here. The 3 that I'm going to suggest you have: list, because it's mandatory, board, and calendar. If you were doing ClickUp or using a project management tool for work, like professional 9 to 5, or your business is much bigger, I would say you would want to hit the Gantt view, leadership, loves a Gantt view. I personally cannot stand them. However, a Gantt view can be very meaningful. Say you're trying to manage a launch and you have different milestones, being able to map them out, see it on a Gantt can be nice, but I'm not going to try and upsell you on a Gantt. So I'm going to undo that. Also want to highlight that views are also capped on the free version. The board view and calendar view, all of these other views like Gantt view, when I was testing out ClickUp for my professional life, my 9 to 5, I maxed out on the amount of times I could view my work at the Gantt view. It was very, very strange. But also be mindful of that. And that's why I don't think you need a lot of these. If you're on a paid subscription tier, I don't think you have any cap there, so you don't really have to worry about it. But I always suggest starting with the free version to just fill it out before you start shelling out your hard-earned money. But these are the 3 that I would say are important. Statuses. You can create different statuses for anything. You can create at the space level, folder level, list level. I like to keep my statuses different at the list level. However, in general practice for me as a project manager, I like to have the to do, in progress. I also like to create delayed, because just because something is in progress doesn't mean it's on time. So I like to create a delayed just so we know that it's not started, but it's also not in motion at the moment. And then I like to create a done status, and I move it to the done, and I'm not making any edits to colors because this should really, you know what, actually I'm lying. I'm going to do colors. Done. I create a done status because it makes it a lot easier for organizing the information when they go through the phases of the different statuses. So when you mark something as complete, it completely takes it off of the board. When ClickUp first came out, or not when it first came out, when I first started using ClickUp years and years ago, people would mark things as complete, and because I used it in my corporate world, and it would disappear and it would cause havoc because you couldn't find it anymore. And I said, I'm not using the complete feature anymore. I'm not using this button. I'm going to create done, because done will consider it as complete, but you still have visibility into the task. It doesn't fall completely off of your list. So just keep that in mind, because it in 2020 it caused havoc. And you'll apply changes. Oh, actually, before I do that, an example of how you can use statuses differently. When I use ClickUp for my content creation and I'm tracking all of the things that I'm creating, I these aren't what I use. I use not started, drafted, in review, edited, published. I use different statuses for tracking. So that's how you can use it differently depending on what you're tracking. So I'll hit apply changes. ClickApps. ClickApps are additional features and ways that help you organize, view, and just manage your work. So there's a priority flag. I love keeping the priority flag. Email, I don't really use. Tags, custom fields are very important. I will get into the importance of custom fields in another video, because I will cover that in how to manage your tasks. Multiple assignees. I don't need this because I'm the only person in my space, but if you have a team, you'd want to have multiple assignees. Time tracking, time estimates. I don't use those because I don't need to track the amount of time that I'm using, or the amount of time I'm spending on a task. If I had a team or if I had a contractor that was working with me, I may want to understand how long a task is taking them, especially if they're charging me hourly. Remap subtask due dates, I will click that. Incomplete warning, I will click that. That's if, say you had 4 subtasks underneath a main task and you want to mark the main task as done, but one of the subtasks is not done, it'll give you an incomplete warning. A dependency warning, reschedule dependencies. I could go on and on about dependencies, and I think I will in another video. But these are important, so I'm going to leave these flagged. Show status progress. As you can see here, this is a circle with, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like half moon, this crescent moon look here. Say you had a task that said create a caption and you had 4 tasks underneath it. It would incrementally get fuller as you completed those subtasks until this was completely filled in. Whenever I have this on, people get so confused by it. And it's a conversation starter that I would rather not have because it's so unnecessary. I don't know why this gets me so annoyed. I just turn this off. If you are working by yourself and you don't mind seeing this have nothing in it and then be partially complete, and then go for it. I can't stand it, so I turn it off. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about that feature. And then I'm going to hit done. So now I am free to hit create space. And if I were to do that, it would bring me to here. And it would say Fall Candle Line 2026. I couldn't create 2025 again. And you now have your space where you can create your folders and you can create your list, as many as you would like. This is where I'm going to end this video on creating a space. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Like, subscribe so that you don't miss the next video where I'm going to talk about creating a folder and how you would utilize a folder for chunking out your work and managing a list. Thank you once again. If you have any questions, let me know. See you next time.